You have reached the Geek Elite. Good luck.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself. But being this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and would blow your head clean off, you've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
On tonight's episode of the Mitch and Rich Show, we're going to go over the Oscars. I don't know if I didn't watch them. Did you watch them, Richard?
I got bits and pieces of it. I had it on, but I was like working, so it was like on in the background. So like I caught little fragments of it here or there, but I didn't sit down and committedly watch it. You know what I mean?
That's fair. And then after that, we are going to get into Mortal Kombat 2021. It seems like this one came right out of nowhere. Like, I knew they were making this movie, but I didn't know they were this close to this close to putting it out, or as in putting it out. So we're going to get into that. But first, as I said, let's talk about the Oscars. Big winner of the night, the Best Picture winner, went to Nomadland.
Yeah. I called it, but then I backtracked out of it because I think I was like, oh, I'm Nomadland. And then after I watched The Father, I was like, oh, it's got to be The Father. And then they were like, Best Picture Nomadland. I was like, gosh, should have, just like multiple choice quiz. Should have went with my first choice.
Always go with your instinct. I'm not going to say I was surprised. I definitely saw just about any one of these movies winning, except for Trial of the Chicago 7, even though I really enjoy that movie. I really thought just about any one of these movies could win. So I am not surprised at all that Nomadland won, which also went to Best Director, went to Chloe Zhao, the director of Nomadland.
Yeah, had a pretty good night at the awards, I would say. I know I would have. That's it's a pretty amazing honor, and I'm very happy for her. I think that's an excellent choice. My biggest thing with it is it was not the movie that I liked the most. I ended up actually liking The Father most, as we talked a little bit about last episode, but I still think the one that has kind of stayed with me the most in terms of just feeling like something I'm not used to was Nomadland. And I think that's kind of what helped, potentially propel it to, the award, and I think Frances McDormand also won as well, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
She did. You're correct. Frances McDormand won for Best Performance by a Leading Actress in a feature film.
That's a really good night at the Academy Awards.
Best Actress in Leading Role. There we go. She did win, and it was a tough category. I think Viola Davis, Andra Day, Vanessa Kirby, and Carey Mulligan all gave great performances. So it's interesting that it's great that she took out the win. Let's see. Best Actress in a Supporting Role went to Yoo Jung-yoon from Minari, which was the grandmother character in Minari. I didn't see this acceptance speech, but I've heard that it was probably the best acceptance speech of the night. Even with the little bit of flirting with Brad Pitt at the beginning. I guess he was the presenter.
So I do want to talk about this a little bit because I read something online that I thought was interesting because I guess a lot of American media was reporting that she was kind of like flirting with Brad Pitt. But what I didn't know, and I don't know how true any of this is, so take all this with a grain of salt because I kind of read it on Twitter. But apparently Plan B is the production company that allowed this movie to move forward, which is Brad Pitt's production company. So Brad Pitt is listed as an executive producer. And I guess a lot of people were saying that there were budgetary issues with this project. And even for, I think, the Academy Awards, she had to put up her own money to come here and accept the awards. So I
No
guess
way.
like a lot of people interpreted it as her being flirtatious, but like a lot of other people that I guess follow more of like is it Korean media? Like she has a lot of other interviews where I guess she wasn't speaking as kindly about him. And so they were kind of saying that was her actually kind of lightheartedly, if you will, giving him like a bunch of shit for like not helping out the production more or something like that. But again, I don't really know how true any of that is, but I thought it was interesting because I watched the acceptance speech and it didn't feel like flirting to me, but it also didn't feel like somebody who was like pissed off about these things happening. So like, I don't really like, I want to look more into it because I thought it was particularly interesting from that standpoint. So you haven't heard anything about this then, I take it?
No, I have not.
Okay, so again, none of that might be inaccurate. Like I said, it's literally something I read randomly on the internet, like not more than 30 minutes ago. So I don't know the validity of it, but I thought it was interesting because I was like, oh, it's kind of fascinating. And I guess someone said that the American media asked her what Brad Pitt smelled like, and her response was, "How should I know? I'm not a dog." And I was like, that's a great answer because that's a stupid question.
That
like,
is
why
a
would you
stupid question.
ask someone that? Like, but I loved her acceptance speech. I loved her character. I thought she did a great job. Very, very deserving. And again, in a year that I feel like was pretty hard fought for, again, I really didn't think this season was going to be that competitive from my own interpretive standpoint, I guess. But I found that, there was just a lot of really good, well-deserving films that came out last year at this point, but they came out in this Oscar season. And so I think anyone who did walk away with a win, it was, definitely well-deserved.
Very cool. Yes. Her portrayal in Minari was, like I said, it helped bring me to tears. So when we watched that movie, so I think she wholeheartedly deserved this Oscar, and I'm glad for her to get it. Also interesting though that if the production company would not pay for her to come over for this, so that's unfortunate. Best actor in a supporting role. So this was when we talked about this. When we talked about Judas and the Black Messiah, both Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya were nominated for this particular category, as opposed to one being nominated here and the other being nominated in Best Lead Actor. This went to Daniel Kaluuya, and I mean, it seems like I said when we watched it, I think they both did a spectacular job. I just definitely think it's. I guess the Fred Hampton character is more of the supporting character, but not that matters. He would be the better of the two, I guess. How did you feel? Do you feel like he did a better job than Lakeith Stanfield?
It's really difficult because, like, I agree with you. I feel like his character is certainly. It feels like his character is in the film less. I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like his performance was that much stronger, but I guess the few things that I have heard to kind of counter my viewpoint on that is that I guess his portrayal of Fred was immaculately spot on, which, not being super familiar with, Fred Hampton, I can't really speak to whether that's true or not, but that is what I've heard from a number of different sources at this point. So I think from that standpoint, I guess it kind of would make a little bit more sense. But again, you would, I guess, have to kind of know a little bit more about that to really speak on it. But yeah, I think they're both good performances. I had issues with the overall story or the presentation of the overall story. So, but I'm happy for him. I think he's a good actor.
Best international feature film went to Another Round, starring Mads Mikkelsen. I have not seen this movie, but it is literally the only one I've heard of on the list. I've heard it's great, and interesting enough, I believe earlier this week they announced Leonardo DiCaprio's production company announced that they had secured the rights to do an American remake of this film, most likely also starring Leonardo DiCaprio in the Mads Mikkelsen role. I take it you hadn't seen this movie.
No, yeah, I really don't know much about it. I want to watch it just because Mads is in it, and I really like him as an actor, and I like a lot of the choices that he makes for projects and things like that. So definitely intrigued. Do want to give it a go. It's a little strange to me that they would make an American adaptation of this movie, but I guess we'll wait and see what happens. I mean, stranger things have happened, right? Like they've made American versions out of tons of other movies, so why not, I guess.
There you go. Best documentary short went to Colette. Once again, I know nothing about this category and don't have much to say about Colette. Do you?
Nope. Yeah. Again, got me on that one. Don't really know much about it, unfortunately.
Sorry. Best documentary feature went to My Octopus Teacher. I've heard people talk about this one. It definitely sounds interesting. As I understand it, it was a marine biologist or a guy going down and just observing this octopus every day for a long period of time. So
yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, I've heard it's really good though.
Yeah, that's all I've heard too. Best original song went to "Fight for You" from Judas and the Black Messiah. Is that a song that you remember?
No,
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if I should. I mean, again, I think we've stated this a number of times on here. We're like not the biggest musical people in the world, you or I. So
No.
Yeah, unless it's like some super amazing badass thing that jumps out at me, probably not gonna remember it too much.
Best animated feature film went to Soul, Pixar's Soul, which is not unprecedented or not a big surprise either. I'm almost curious if you went back like the last 10 years, how many times it's been a Pixar movie that won Best Animated Feature.
It seems like it would be a lot.
Yeah. Best adapted screenplay went to The Father, which we talked about it being originally a stage play. So
Production, yeah.
Yeah, stage production. So definitely not unheard of. I didn't realize the Borat sequel was in this category. What would it be considered adapted from? The original movie?
The show, probably.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. Nomadland was a book. One Night in Miami is a book. And I don't know about The White Tiger.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not too familiar with that one, unfortunately.
Best original screenplay went to Promising Young Woman, which is Fennel Emerald, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I believe she just got but she just got tapped to write the Zatanna movie. That's right, for DC Films or DC Comics Films. So that's I mean, at this point, I feel like they'd probably give her the opportunity to also direct it, but we'll see. Did you have any thoughts on that being best original screenplay?
The Father?
No.
Promising Young Woman. I don't know. I mean, I guess I feel like I'm not the person to ask because I really didn't have. I mean, the movie was okay, and I think it made some interesting choices. But overall, the more and more I think about it, the more and more I wasn't that big of a fan of the movie. That's not to say that it's a bad movie.
Just wasn't for you.
Yeah, I just think there was a lot of other films that, I don't know. Like, to me, I don't know. I just wasn't blown away by it, I guess, as the more and more I kind of think about it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. Best production design went to Mank. I mean, it was very stylized, obviously, and made to look a lot like Citizen Kane in a lot of ways. So I guess that would go towards best production design.
Yeah, I mean, it's a period piece. Those are always tricky and challenging to do. And, it's a period piece that you have to make look good in black and white on top of that. So, and I mean, there's still a lot of different elements to the production design that are pretty awesome in that, in terms of not only making it look like Citizen Kane, but just some of the overall environments are really cool. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
Best cinematography went to Eric Messerschmidt for Mank. Also, once again, going towards the whole look and feel of period piece and making it look like Citizen Kane. I'm sure we talked about him, the cinematographer, when we went over the movie.
I'm pretty sure we did, yeah.
Best costume design went to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which, once again, period piece. A lot of period accurate clothing, so I definitely can see that.
Yeah, I still haven't seen that, but I really do want to. I want to try to give that a watch because I've heard a lot of really good feedback about the film.
I went, you know what, and I probably shouldn't admit this, but I watched like the first half of it, and I just could not get into it. Like it just, it is, as much as I like a movie with a lot of great dialogue, it just didn't catch me for whatever reason. And not that Viola Davis was doing a bad job acting. She was obviously doing a great job acting. I didn't care for the character that she was playing, the Ma Rainey character. And I don't know. I was like, I'm okay. I don't want to keep watching this.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't really know too much about it, unfortunately. So, yeah, maybe I'll have to watch it and then try to report back on whether or not I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So is it just it's just too slow, or just the characterization, or?
And no, I really just think that it's the character of Ma Rainey is just so off-putting to me that I just didn't want to keep watching it. Like I love Viola Davis, so I mean, she's obviously doing a good job of making me not like the character, but I just didn't want to keep watching. If that makes sense.
No, it totally does. Yeah. I haven't seen it, so I mean, I can't really offer any sort of counter insight to that, but it totally makes sense.
Best achievement in sound went to The Sound of Metal, which
not surprising.
Not surprising at all. Yeah. When you can have the sound just drop out in the middle, it definitely makes it so that you still have to tell the story in a great way, then that will work. Best animated short film went to If Anything Happens, I Love You, which I've heard a lot about, but I have not seen. Live action short film went to Two Distant Strangers. Once again, but this one I actually haven't heard anything about, so I'm not familiar. Best original score went to Soul, which is not surprising. Best visual effects went to Tenet. Once again, not surprising.
Right.
Best film editing went to Sound of Metal, which I guess is a little surprising to me. Nothing about that movie really struck me as film editing, like great stuff, but then again, I'm probably not the best person to talk about film editing. Anything about the movie struck out to you?
Well, I mean, I think, the biggest thing that you can't comment on the editing is a win for the editing, because it's supposed to be the invisible art form, right? Like if you notice it, then it's not done very well. So
that makes sense.
Ideally, you don't want to notice the edit. So I think in that capacity, I think that works pretty well. Yeah, I don't really feel like I have too much more to add to the editing.
Best makeup and hairstyling went to Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And then, just like at the Oscars itself, we saved the best actor in a leading role for the end, which went to Anthony Hopkins for The Father, which, goes towards what you said, and maybe why you changed your answer to The Father for Best Picture.
Yeah, he definitely had a tremendous amount to do with me kind of changing my opinion, even though, like I said, I enjoyed it more. I think Nomadland did kind of stay with me in a different way, because it just felt like something I'd never seen before. But yeah, Anthony Hopkins' performance is it's crazy. He's 83 years old. Like, he's not a spring chicken anymore. And to, put yourself in these again, and like, let's be fair, it's not like he's filming Taken and jumping over fences and, doing crazy stunts, but I mean, like, he's still emotionally taking himself to kind of like the highest of high moments and then, the lowest of low moments within just seconds of each other. And I don't care who you are, like, that's not an easy feat to accomplish as a performer. And then you start thinking, that's they're working like 12 or more hours per day. And, like it's just a lot of to undertake for anyone, And so to me, that really kind of just made it stick out that much more to me, to just really be so captivated by his performance. And oh my gosh, especially the last kind of like scene with him in it is just so unbelievably heart-wrenching.
It is. It
so
is
incredibly well done. So that, again, that makes total sense that he walked away with that that night.
So a lot of people have speculated that the reason why best actor in a leading role was the last category, which it usually isn't. Usually that's best picture, but this time it was actor in a leading role, because the Oscars as a production, or the Academy Awards as a production, were banking on maybe Chadwick Boseman being the last, or winning the Oscar for this category. His family was in the audience, and there is like kind of precedence for him maybe winning, because he had won for this role in other award shows, like I believe the SAG and not People's Choice, but maybe Producer's Choice. I'm not sure. But it didn't end up going to him. It went to Anthony Hopkins, and as it's being reported, I mean, obviously Anthony Hopkins was not there. He lives in Wales, and as you said, he is 83 years old. So getting on an airplane, in the middle of what is still a pandemic that is going on, was probably not the best idea for him. Yeah. And they would not allow him to zoom in from his home. I guess if you were given permission to zoom in or teleconference in, you had to go to a theater somewhere else near you. But in Wales, it would also have been 3:30 a.m. So
yeah, I think I would just have, I'd just be like, send me my gold, man, and we'll call it a day.
Well, I also heard that his people had given Olivia Colman, who was there, like his acceptance speech if he won. But then again, the Academy Award production people said no, she wouldn't be allowed to do that, which to me seemed unreasonable.
Yeah, it does seem weird.
Yeah, especially since, usually, I mean, someone should be able to give a speech for him, because in this case, since there's no quote unquote host, Joaquin Phoenix, I believe, was the one that announced that he won, and he said, I accept this on behalf of Anthony Hopkins, and good night. And like, that's it. That's just how the show ended, which
pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah, definitely ends up being just like, oh, kind of thing. Did you make it that far into the show?
I don't remember seeing any of that. So yeah, I must have tuned out by that point.
How did you feel about the way that the show was produced this year? Because it was directed by Steven Soderbergh.
Well, I mean, I guess the ending makes a lot more sense now. If it just randomly, abruptly kind of ends, that's very Soderbergh. So, yep, that totally checks out.
That tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's in the middle of a pandemic. Like, the location and stuff looked weird. The not having a host theme seems strange. Don't know that I minded it, but it just definitely felt quite a bit different than some of the years past, but I mean, that's to be expected. It's definitely to be expected. Got to have less people there, so no reason to do it in such a huge theater if there's not going to be nearly that many people there. So it does make sense.
Well, they ended up doing it in the train station, the famous train station, the I don't know, Union Station. I don't know what it's called, but the train station in LA that usually gets used for shooting any type of train station.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. What about you? I mean, did you like it? You didn't really watch it at all, though, did you?
No, I didn't watch it at all, and I haven't gone back and watched any of the clips yet. I did want to go and watch the In Memoriam, just because that's a thing that I used to always. When I did watch the Oscars, I did. I don't want to say enjoy, but it was a nice segment to help remember those who had passed that year.
Yeah.
And I heard that they like kind of played it at like 1.5 speed or something. Like they totally like sped it up this year, mostly because like a lot of people's speeches went long and no one was really there to cut them off this time. And they however didn't really have any skits or anything like this year as like they have in the past. Except for, I guess, the part where I have no idea who it was that asked her, but someone asked Glenn Close about liking the song "Da Butt," and she got up and started doing a dance or something. I don't know.
Yeah. They were going around and seeing if people could identify whether the song was, like won an Academy Award for like Best Original Song or whatever. And yeah, she was one of the people they asked about the song, and she kind of like knew the song and knew a little bit of the history, and then got up and did, kind of like a dance to it or whatever.
Which I think has come out since then that it was completely scripted. So,
which it should not be shocking.
No, it should not. No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to want to have really close reins over a lot of what's going to happen on camera, which kind of reminds me, so this week I have been having the opportunity to watch the morning show on Apple TV. This is kind of a tangent, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I don't know if you've seen it yet, but the morning show on Apple TV Plus, which stars Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, and Steve Carell. And like Reese Witherspoon being the new person to the morning show comes in, and she doesn't realize that everything that they say is scripted. Like even the little parts that seem unscripted is scripted. And it just made me think of, oh yeah, of course, anything said on this award show that's going to be seen all around the world is scripted. Like they're not going to let you go off script. As you've seen in past years, if you go off script, you say the wrong name of the movie that won.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. La La Land. I mean, Moonlight. Moonlight. You win. Seriously, he's not kidding. Get up here.
I think that was the last year I watched the Oscars, which I know was only like 2 years ago, but yeah,
feels like a lifetime.
That it does. Anything else you want to say about this year's production of the Academy Awards, which I think was 79th?
I don't even know what number we're on anymore.
I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe that might have been it, but either way,
really 79. It's not more than that.
93rd. There we go. I don't know where I got 79.
I feel like that would be so much more than that, but.
But did you have anything else you wanted to say about it?
No, not really. I mean, it's basically kind of what I expected it to be. A little bit stranger than some of the past years, but again, like you said, we are still in a pandemic, so not too shocking considering. But yeah, it was a thing that happened, and maybe they'll get back to normal at some point, and it'll be. I don't know, it just felt like it wasn't as big of a deal this year, which is crazy because I feel like there was actually better films that were up for awards this year. So I was like, that's kind of intriguing.
Okay. Let's talk about Mortal Kombat 2021. Were you a big fan of first the video game series franchise and the 1995 Mortal Kombat film?
So I wouldn't say that I'm a huge fan of the games. Like, obviously, I have played them. Um, I don't remember the last one I played was probably a good while back at this point. Um, so I mean, I haven't kept up with it too much. The 1995 version, yes, obviously I watched that when I was much younger. So obviously there's some nostalgic connective tissue to that. So yes, I would say that I was definitely a fan of that original movie, if you will. What about you? Because you're not like a huge gamer, but for those that maybe don't know, you do like Injustice quite a bit, which is made by the same team that kind of created and made Mortal Kombat. So
Right.
that's
The
kind of interesting.
NetherRealms company,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah. Injustice is probably the last game, or Injustice 2, I guess, would be the last like fighting game I played. I believe probably the last Mortal Kombat game I played would have been Mortal Kombat versus DC. Is that what it was called?
I think so.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of the game series. I wouldn't say I am a fan of the game series. I think in the big, not tournament, but
Fighting game?
the big feud of the two, I was more of a Street Fighter fan than I was a Mortal Kombat fan. But I did enjoy playing Mortal Kombat. I think me being just a terrible gamer, the fact that you actually had to push a button to block as opposed to just hitting back like you did on Street Fighter, that's why I wasn't good at Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
So just being a bad gamer just made me turn me off to it, I guess. But yes,
Interesting observation.
the 1995 movie was obviously pivotal in my young life. To me, it was like, oh, look, we're going to have, great video game to movies coming out because this one was great. So obviously they're going to be good from here on out. Didn't quite work out that way.
I was like, oh, if only you could tell young Mitch how wrong he was going to be.
I did. So looking at the 1995 one versus the 2021 one, I would say like your two biggest stars in the 1995 would have been Christopher Lambert as Lord Raiden and Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa. I am so terrible as Shang Tsung. And then this time around, but I mean, the rest of the people were, I would say maybe Bridget Wilson Sampras goes on to be known for more. Robin Shue, I feel like he only goes on to make Beverly Hills Ninja and then briefly show up in Death Race with Jason Statham.
Jason Statham?
Yeah. But other than that, there's not really a lot of people in this that you'd recognize from anything, I wouldn't think. I think the same goes for this current movie.
I would say that Bridget Wilson was probably known because she was in Last Action Hero and Billy Madison. So I feel like she was a little bit known.
Wasn't Billy Madison after this, or was that before this?
It was the same year. It was 95.
Was it? Okay. All
yeah,
right.
it was.
That's
I
fair.
think it was theoretically before, but I know they did come out in the same. They were both in 95, and she had also been in Higher Learning, I think, before that too. And then Last Action Hero would have been 92, 93, 92 or 93. 93, I think it was 93. So I mean, like, I feel like she had some notoriety, but you're still right. Like, for the bulk majority of people, they weren't like, well, and even her. Like, dare I say, she's a household name. I don't think she was a household name. Most of these people weren't at this point, other than maybe Christopher Lambert.
Yeah, I think he's probably the only one that comes close to being somewhat of a household name, mainly because of Highlander and a couple other movies that he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This time around, we have Louis Tan. So if you know him from other things, that would be your best bet. Josh Lawson, I remember him. Either I remember him or I remember his twin brother from it's House of Lies on Showtime with Don Cheadle. Joe Taslim, sorry, as Sub-Zero. I know him from Warrior, but that's about it. Jessica McNamee, who played Sonya Blade, I'd seen her in a show called Sirens, which was all about EMTs. And then Makad Brooks who plays Jax. It was most recently was in Supergirl as James Olsen. He's been in a lot of other things, and I even remember him when I watched the first season of Desperate Housewives. He played a character in that. And he was so much younger and so much smaller. Like, he is ripped in this.
So you didn't recognize Hiroyuki Sanada?
So I was going to get to that. Like, I would say he's probably the biggest star in all of this. Obviously being in game Wolverine, Last Samurai
Westworld for a few episodes.
On which?
Westworld. He was in Westworld.
Yeah, that's right. He was in Westworld for a few episodes. Yeah, I mean, I would say he was probably the most well-known person throughout this whole movie. But then again, also probably not a household name.
Yeah, I mean, he's in 47 Ronins too, which I'm a sucker for. As well as a couple other samurai movies. Like I actually like him a lot, but nevertheless, as a side note, I just wanted to throw that out there. But I agree with you again. Kind of a similar situation where you're going to have a lot of casts that most people probably are going to maybe not know by name, maybe not recognize, or kind of have that like faint itch at the back of their mind, like, oh, I've seen that person in something before, right?
So throughout most of this, I would say this: I enjoyed this movie. Is it a great movie? No. Is it something that I'm going to go back and watch again? Probably not, unless someone else is like, "Hey, you want to watch this again?" I'm like, okay, maybe. Or whenever the sequel comes out, which I'm sure the sequel is going to come out, especially with the way the movie ends. But I overall enjoyed it. I had a good enough time. I got to see a lot of fights, and Josh Lawson brought in a lot of the comedy. So that's a lot of what I needed. What was your overall for this?
Ooh,
that bad, huh?
Yeah, I want to do like a brutality on this movie. It's I don't know. I wanted it to be good, but I think it's just atrocious.
Atrocious,
like, honestly. Yeah, maybe that's too harsh of a word, but it's not good. And okay, I guess let me digress for a second and let me be fair to the film here. Chocolate, Ong Bak, The Raid, The Protector, all those movies have basically destroyed martial arts films for me. And rightfully so. Rightfully so.
You're
because they're flipping insane. Which I get. Not every film can be that. But man, the story in this is hot garbage. And it has no reason to be. It honestly has no reason to be. Like, which let me get into that for just a second, because a lot of people are probably hearing me say that and be like, but it's Mortal Kombat. I'm like, yes, it is Mortal Kombat, but that doesn't give it a pass for having complete trash storage. And there's no reason for it to. Like, you have enough to go off of that I feel like you should be able to tell a compelling story, right? You have a lot at stake. The entire survival of all humanity on Earth, and Earth being its own thing and not being imprisoned and enslaved. That's a big deal. And yet it's talked about so nonchalantly, and no one's the least bit upset or concerned that that's even a possibility. No one bats an eye at it. Everybody's like, yep, every other Tuesday's like that. It's like, no, that's a big deal, right? And even the moment in the beginning where it started off and I was like, oh, okay, like maybe we are going to get something different with this, because there's the whole exchange with like Sub-Zero and Scorpion's family, and again, there is some moments there that should be very powerful moments, and they're just not. They're absolutely not. And so I'm like, okay, I can excuse all of that because again, right, it's Mortal Kombat. We are here to see the fighting, but even the fighting's not good. Like it's like a step or two above Iron Fist. Maybe a step or two is a little too harsh, but it's not good. It feels more dated than the 1995 movie does when it comes to the combat. And it feels more dated than the original video game. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, there is obviously they had a pretty good budget because, I mean, it's filmed very well. I mean, it's captured very well. The production design looks really awesome. Like, they found a lot of really cool set pieces and environments and things like that. So it's like, there really isn't any excuse for this to, like, also just have bad combat, because that's if you're gonna blow your budget on something in a Mortal Kombat movie, it sure as hell better be the fighting, and it just doesn't feel like it is to me.
I mean, I am not gonna disagree with you, but I am going to push back on you a little.
You're like, not gonna disagree with you, but I'm gonna disagree with you. That's okay. That's totally fine.
I don't. I mean, does this movie suffer from the terrible editing and filming that you shouldn't be getting in an action film, especially in an action film which is mostly people that are fighters, like stunt fighters or fighters in general. Like, we should have more long shots of people fighting, like wide shots, no cuts, stuff like that. But we get a lot of fast cuts and fake special effects in the way of making it seem like it's a more brutal fight. You know what I mean? But I would still say that the fighting in this is actually really good. Like, have you recently watched the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie?
To be fair, no, I have not.
Okay.
But, so, you know, I might be exaggerating that, but it was also 1995. Like, you do have to take that into some consideration because filmmaking and fight choreography has, or should have, well, no, I can't even say should have, because it did, because again, The Raid and all those movies they just named, like, they certainly are capable of capturing incredibly insane martial arts on film. So in 1995, yeah, okay. And again, somebody who didn't really want to take a risk on that movie back then, like, you also have to take the time that movie was made into consideration. But in 2021, after we had Mortal Kombat Legacy, Mortal Kombat Rebirth, which were both better than this and have no right to be. They literally don't have a right to be better than this with the amount of budget and time and everything else that clearly had to have gone into this movie. It is bad from that standpoint. Like, okay, I would say if you took this movie and released this movie in 1995, I might have been like, okay, yeah, the fighting was pretty good. But in 2021, it's bland. It's just outdated, and it's so weak. Like, oh, people are getting kicked, and it's like, oh, nothing's happened. And then from a story standpoint, even, again, going back to this, if there's no one to care for or root for. Like, Liu Kang shows up and he's a whiny bitch and basically gets his ass beat by Cabal, which makes no sense. Like, this guy's been here training essentially his whole life, and him and Kung Lao go out like bitches, basically. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense. They're like touting them to be these huge, powerful people, and then they basically both get their ass kicked. And then it's the same thing. Like, the story, okay, obviously they were like, we're going to do more of these than just one. Okay, well then take your time and tell a good goddamn story. Like, this movie is so rushed and there's no reason for it to be. Like, it's almost too fast in the pacing. Like, Goro shows up and then Goro's dead. And it's like, Goro's supposed to be this huge badass. Like, what? And just completely dead. And like, and that's the other thing. I'm like, okay, like I get it. We have a ton of characters to kill off in movies, but like, you also, if you're going to continue with these and make more of them, like just set the ground rules first. Like, build a good foundation, because I don't even want to watch more of these. I'm like, let's just wait another 5 years and reboot it again, because this is hot trash. Like, I don't. Sorry. Again, I'm probably being a little harsh on it, but I really think there is a solid opportunity for this movie to have been really good. And it just isn't. Like, the dialogue is atrocious. The like, the whole thing with Kano, like, it's just all like, I don't know. And then even Cole Young, like, there's just nothing to like about that character. He's just like, he's just a very whiny person. Like, he, and like at the beginning it's like, oh, you have to do more than just block, and I'm like, well, this dude's, arcana is going to be that he just, takes a beating and then pushes it back out, and that's what it is. I'm like, that's such a horrible power. Like, wow, I don't know. I was not impressed with this. Clearly,
I did want to get to that. Like, this movie introduces the idea of this quote unquote arcana. Everybody has an ability that comes from their inner self for whatever reason. And then we get to the part where Cole finally unlocks his arcana. And it just happens to be like this is what I said. I said to someone, I said, whatever it is that gives you your arcana or helps you unlock your arcana, be it, fate or destiny or, your chi. They finally was just like, man, I'm tired of watching this guy get his butt beat. Let's just make it so that he gets his butt beat as his arcana. Like, the more he gets beat up, the more like outward power he gets. And I was like, that's literally just being like, we give up here. Yeah, this is your special power to get smashed in the face, like Mr. Dumpling from Sidekicks.
I'm not even kidding to you. I said the exact same thing I was watching this movie. I was like, you are Mr. Dumpling. I'm like, you block punches with your face. It's literally the laziest power they could have get. And then all of a sudden, towards the end, his suit that absorbs power, like, manifests these tonfas out of his hands. And I was like, wait a fucking minute. Like, he's never trained with those anywhere in here. Like, whether that's your ability or not, like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just magically you're great with them because that's your power. But I'm like, really? It's just so lazy, dude. It's such lazy writing, in my opinion.
So yeah, I definitely think that this movie suffers from a lack of story, or maybe most of the storyline actually got thrown onto the cutting room floor in lieu of getting more fight scenes, because there were a lot of fight scenes, whether or not you agree that they were good or not. There were just a lot of them.
There is a very large or decent amount of fighting, but again, I feel like it's too much, especially which is something I never thought I would ever say in my life, about violence or action in films. Never thought I'd say that, but there's all these moments that just never get a chance to get set up. There's all these moments that never get a chance to breathe. There's just so many moments that just felt like contrivance after contrivance. And like, I'm not even talking like from a standpoint of like, oh, well, the Batmobile couldn't do that because it doesn't have Z-rated tires to get to that speed. Like, that's obviously trivial bullshit that you're diving into, but which I guess to an extent, some of what I'm saying is too, but there's just so many moments in this where it's like, again, if you're going to set this up for a connected, maybe not connected universe, but an extended universe or a continuing universe, take your time, which, wait a second, it's all making sense because this is Warner Brothers. So shocker that they would not take the time to set up some sort of extended universe properly, right? But I'm just saying, like, again, there's so many. I don't know. I'm just so frustrated because there's so much opportunity here to do something really cool with this story, and they just didn't. They didn't do it, and it sucks because it's like, why make more of them? Like, obviously, because a lot of people watch it, and I guess it's doing well. So what do I know? But it just, I don't know. I just so frustrated. I'm like, you had a total opportunity here, and I feel like they just completely piss it away with horrible events. And you're killing all these people. I get it. It's Mortal Kombat, but my God, like, just set up a fucking story, you know? And then the same thing. They go to the outworld and it's like, oh, we gotta talk all weird now because we're in a different outworld. I'm like, no, just talk normal. That's so stupid. It's so bad. There's no, and they only did it for like the first time we went there, they were talking normal. And then it was like the second time we went, they all of a sudden were talking weird. And I'm like, oh God. Why? And then the reptile shows up, boom, harbor ripped out, dead. I'm like, all right, well, guess we're never seeing him again. Like, who cares? It's so bad. I'm like, just set it up.
Yeah,
set it up.
For a movie that is, setting up for sequels, they definitely did kill off a lot of their characters in this first movie. However, in the Mortal Kombat franchise, there are plenty of characters for them to keep going forward with. Like, there are certain characters we didn't even see in this movie, like Melina, Katana, who played a huge part of the 1995 movie.
Oh yeah, no. Don't get me wrong. There are tons and tons of characters to kill, but there still needs to be something attached to those deaths. There needs to be something at stake to make it meaningful for the story. Which, okay, you're like, wow, it's Mortal Kombat, sure, but that's not an excuse. Like, you can still tell a good story, and arguably, I would say that would be better. Because then you would buy into it. It would make the fighting less bland because even then you're going to have something at stake. You're going to have some tension. And I never cared about any of these characters. Like, even Liu Kang and Kung Lao, I was like, both of these people suck. Cool. Like, suck his soul out. Who cares? He wasn't doing anything other than talking shit to Kano like he was a 10-year-old. So, like... I mean, that's their advice to Cole. Oh, just keep taking the pain. Just get beating up. I'm like, wait, are we preparing to fight to save our world, or am I just preparing to get the crap beat out of me for eternity? Because that's not good advice. That's not good advice.
So one thing. So let's talk about Cole. Cole Young is our main protagonist, so to speak. It's definitely our audience character for us to get introduced to the rest of this world. He is not a character that has ever been in the video games, to my understanding.
Correct.
And then I thought it was interesting because he is a MMA fighter, and when the game first came out, and the first three of them, like, obviously they didn't they didn't have any practitioners of MMA in the video game be portrayed. One, it just hadn't hit its popularity yet, at least not the way that it is now. And two, I would assume that'd be a lot more difficult to do in the video games back then, being the 2D side-scrolling versions of the game. Mm-hmm. But this particular character, that is his fighting style. So we're introducing not just a new character, but a new style of fight into this franchise, which then comes into play later when he goes up against Goro. He uses his form of fighting to help break the many limbs that Goro has. I honestly think that if you were going to make this movie now, the character you would have wanted to make your main protagonist is Sonya Blade. Like, I kind of actually enjoyed her character in this movie. The unfortunate part is we just don't get enough story about her. We'd have no idea what's going on with her. She just wants to be a part of this contest. She's followed some breadcrumbs, but she's the one that doesn't have a dragon mark. She's the one that's probably the most worthy of being in the tournament. And spoiler, she eventually gets it by killing Kano. Like in the first movie or the 1995 movie, we know that there's a big rivalry between the two of them because Kano killed her partner. But that's not something that's in this one. She just ends up not liking the guy because he's a criminal, and she ends up killing him, which then transfers over the dragon tattoo or dragon mark so that she is a Earth Realm champion. I just think that introducing the new character of Cole doesn't make any sense to me. Like you, with a franchise, as we just said, that is so just so filled with characters that introducing a new one for whatever reason just did not seem like a good idea to me. Sonya Blade would have been the best character to follow through as she's putting together all these clues to what is Mortal Kombat, what is this tournament, what is Outworld, all that stuff. I don't know. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
No, I 1000% agree with you. Like, if this movie had been about her kind of discovering about this, her investigating this, and this is to drive home my point. You just hit the nail on the head, right? Like, they don't talk at all about how Kano killed her partner. He's just some scumbag that she happened to arrest because she was investigating him for having a dragon tattoo, basically. So when she kills him, it's stupid. It means nothing. But like when you take that into consideration in the reverse of that, if you saw him kill her partner, you saw that at stake, that would be so much more powerful. So again, it's you can't excuse the lack of story and say, well, it's Mortal Kombat. Sure it is, but there are still moments in there that you could tell a truly compelling story, and there's no reason that you shouldn't be doing that, especially if you're saying, hey, we want to set this up as an ongoing franchise thing. The other thing that I was going to comment, and this is nothing against the actor who played Cole, because I'm sure he would whoop my ass, but he doesn't really have a fighting style. That's the whole thing. They talk about him just getting the crap beat out of him. And even when he fights Goro, like, he breaks one of his arms, but doesn't really even break it. Goro just grabs it and bends it back into shape. And like, arguably his wife did more damage when she stabbed him in the ribs with an axe and then hits him with the truck. And then he cuts his arms and legs off when his body manifests the tone fuzz. Like, right. He doesn't really do. I mean, he doesn't do very much fighting in this at all, and it doesn't even really showcase MMA at all. Like, there's hardly any of it. And at the very end, his wife and his daughter have somehow, not somehow, but by Sub-Zero, have been frozen to the octagon, and instead of fighting Sub-Zero, he's just hitting the ice, trying to get his wife in the mouth. I'm like, why wouldn't you go kill this dude? They're not going anywhere. Because they needed to set it up so that his ancient ancestor, which is Scorpion, to come back and then defeat. But Scorpion
Sub-Zero.
Is back. Scorpion's fighting Sub-Zero, and he's just over there. I'm like, dude, there's the two of you. You were talking about having to team up, and then you're just like, oh, great grandpappy Scorpion's got this. I'm gonna go bust my wife out of the ice instead of killing this guy and then setting them free and saving the entire fucking planet. That's what I mean. Like, the writing is just so bad, and there's no reason for it to be. So frustrated, obviously.
Obviously.
But no, to go back, I 1000% agree with you. I think it would have been so much more engaging to see this maybe through Sonya Blade's eyes. And, maybe it starts with her just getting assigned to some sort of investigation, and then it kind of end up stumbling into this thing or whatever. Like, that would have been so much better than what we got. Like, I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay. So there you go. The two of us kind of fall on two different ends. I'm going to say I'm a little bit more center. You're definitely on the did not like it side. I
don't know. What I'm saying is harsh, but it's genuinely because I liked the 95 movie.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Rebirth and Legacy. I genuinely like most of the games. Like, I really don't understand what happened here.
Honestly, I think that because this movie was being touted as, oh look, we're making an R-rated Mortal Kombat movie, so you're going to get to see the gore that comes with the video games. Whereas the 1995 movie was PG-13, and they definitely had to hold back. Where they didn't fill the screen with blood and gore, they had to definitely give us characters that had charisma and purpose. So this time they were like, we don't need to work on that. We just want to show the people the gore. Just give it to them. And you get a fatality scene where, Kung Lao throws his hat onto the ground and turns it into a saw blade, and the flying around lady who did that, I don't think she even had a line. So I don't even know if you had an actress player. Like, it could have just been a computer generated character. Comes flying in at
Screech.
She comes flying in at him, and he dodges it, and she goes flying into the saw blade and gets killed. Like, it's exactly what I think it's exactly what they were setting out for, because they weren't trying to make anything other than a super gore action film. And I think for some people that's good. That's exactly what they want. It's like Godzilla versus Kong. Like, some people were just like, don't even give me any of the human characters. Just give me the two giant creatures fighting. And you got 3 to 4 fight scenes of that in that movie. Like, I think a lot of people were like, good. Cut out all the people talking and just give me that, and I would have been fine. Other people might have been more like, I wish there was more story. Like, just more story in general with the other characters. This is the same way.
Let me ask you this, though. Out of those 4 fight sequences in Godzilla vs. King Kong, are they good, though? Because most of the fighting in this is not good. Even that's what I'm saying. Like, if this whole movie was, okay, case and point, The Raid. The Raid is not a deep, compelling, Academy Award-winning story, right? No one's ever going to think that. But the action is so good you're like, yeah, I don't care.
You're absolutely right. Yes.
This does not get that pass. This does not win on either of these platforms.
That would be the almost the equivalent of you holding up Godzilla King of the Monsters to Citizen Kane. Like, we're talking about the best of the best in action films up against this run-of-the-mill movie. Like, I get it. They're not going to be as good as Chocolate or The Raid or Ong Bak, but
and I don't even think it has to get to that level. I don't think even it has to get to that level, but man, you got to do something. Like, you can't just be like, oh, well, we're going to get lazy on the writing. We're going to get lazy on the fighting. We're going to get lazy on the gore. Like, even the gore there is not good.
All right, cool. I think that's, I don't know what else to say about this movie. I think there was some good parts to it, and I definitely enjoyed it. Richard disagrees.
Not so much. Fine. Yeah. Wait till they do the Sonya cut, and it's 5.5 hours of Sonya Blade,
there you
exploring
go.
The world.
I'm honestly interested to see what they do with the sequel. Because the movie leaves it open for a sequel. That's my biggest complaint about this movie, is that there's no, the movie doesn't feel like a whole story in itself. It literally is just like the prequel to the next movie, because you don't even get a tournament in this movie, which is fine. That was fine with me. It's all set up to, the next movie where they probably will have the tournament and they'll win, and then the third movie will be, Outworld's going to just invade anyways, kind of thing. You'll probably get to see a lot of the characters that died this time around in the next movie, because we saw Shang Tsung suck everybody's soul into himself, and that's the whole point of his character. He gets to bring those characters back to fight other people because he sucked their souls out. I just think that it. Hopefully they'll learn from the mistakes of this one when they make the next one, because they are making a next one. It did well enough in the year of a pandemic.
No, I mean, again, I don't know. I want so much more from it, and I agree with you. I love that there wasn't a tournament. I did like the idea of the approach of being like, oh, this has been going on in the background, but we're kind of discovering that. I don't know. I just feel like they went about it so sloppily, which isn't probably even a real word. So that tells you how.
I think it is. I think it is.
Well, either way. But yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm an idiot, so if they make a sequel, I'm gonna watch it, like, for sure. Like, it's obviously gonna happen, but
especially if it's available on your streaming service that you're already paying for, right?
that's very true. And it's crazy too, because I was the one that was like, "Hey, we should watch this movie," and then you were like, "Oh, it's pretty good." I'm like, "Man, I effed up. I made us watch a bad movie," and I was like, "Shoot, what have I done?"
Oh, that's okay.
That's pretty funny though.
All right. If you have an opinion on this movie or the Oscars that we talked about earlier and you want to talk to me, find me on Twitter. I am at Mitchipedia GEM. GEM stands for Geek Elite Media. Richard, where can people find you online?
The easiest way to find me is just go to rycowen.com, RICOWN.com, and you can check out my virtual photography as well as all my social media links.
The rest of Geek Elite Media is at Geek Elite Media on Twitter, at Geek Elite Media on Instagram, and Facebook.com/Geek Elite Media is our Facebook page. Check out archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts on our network on our website, geekelitemedia.com. And whatever podcatcher you use to listen to us, please rate and review us. It helps spread the word of our network. But until next time, this is the Mitch and Rich Show on the Geek Elite Media Network saying always remember to geek out.
Geek out.
This concludes our broadcast. Beep.